This is the Balanced Growth Show with Dr. Travis Perry, helping successful business professionals like you achieve balance in their lives.
Welcome to another episode of the Balanced Growth Show. I'm your host, Dr. Travis Perry. Today, we have the privilege of speaking with Jaime Nacach. Jaime is an entrepreneur, marketer, self-taught tech expert, and the founder and CEO of Virtual Latinos. He was born in Mexico City, but now he's been living the majority of his life in San Diego, California. He graduated from SDSU with a bachelor's degree in business administration with a focus on the management of information systems and earned his MBA from Tel Aviv University in Israel. Jaime, just like his family, has been an entrepreneur most of his life and loves the ability to turn challenges into opportunities. My friend, that is the definition of entrepreneur. And I'm so excited to have you on today. It's been a pleasure to get to know you in the pre-show. Welcome to the Balanced Growth Show.
Thanks, Travis. Yeah, really appreciate being here. And thank you for the great introduction. Yeah, really happy to speak with you today.
Absolutely. Well, I love letting the guests tell us their story. How did you get here and how did you come up with Virtual Latinos? Let's hear it from you.
All right. Yeah. So I've been working in digital marketing for a long time in previous jobs. Eventually, after my MBA, I decided that it was probably the right time to start a business if I was going to start a business at any point. So I started a marketing agency in 2015. And that marketing agency was able to grow to a point, but not to the point that I wanted at the time. I actually got married in 2018 and knew that I wanted to build a family. And the reality is that once I obviously made that happen and got married, I knew that I was going to have to increase my income in order to actually, support a family. And the reality is that as much as I loved doing marketing and the marketing agency, it just wasn't producing the financial things that I needed. So I had to look for other ways to, increase my income. And one of the ways naturally was to either charge my existing clients more money or new clients more money, or to decrease my costs. And I decided to go on the route of exploring not increasing the pricing, but instead decreasing the costs. So by attending lots of different marketing conferences that I was going to, I learned that a bunch of marketers were already going to the Philippines to hire virtual assistants to decrease their costs. And long story short, I did the same. I did it on my own. I did not have a great experience. I hired a total of 5 different people, and it didn't really work out that good. And then I said to myself, well, this is kind of weird. Why am I also doing this? I'm Mexican. I live across the border. There's a bunch of people in Tijuana that I'm sure I can, potentially find them to become marketers as part of my company. And then if I need them to cross for a few meetings, I could. And so I tried. I didn't find them because Tijuana itself isn't the best place to find digital marketers with US experience. But I regardless hired one graphic designer that later converted into my marketing assistant, but then eventually she quit because she got a really good job offer with a big national company or international company. And so I said to myself, okay, I got to start finding people just like the Filipinos, but in Latin America, outside of just the border. And I started searching, and also, long story short, I didn't find anything. And I'm like, this is really strange because the Filipino VAs industry, let's say, is like 20, 30 years old, and yet nobody's thought like me, let's say, to build an agency of virtual Latinos. So I saw it as an opportunity of like a blue ocean of things to be able to do that nobody had done really at the time in 2018 before. So yeah, I first just did it just like a side sort of project to see if it might work. And well, now I can tell you, I guess 5 years later, that it did work. Now it's my only business. The marketing agency doesn't exist in terms of offering any services. And so now we're fully focused on offering people that live in Latin America as virtual professionals.
I love this. When I went to your website, and I told you this in the pre-show, it like hit me over the side of the head. I'm sure it did for you, like this idea. And here you are, a Latin American, like living in Southern California, who didn't, thought like I did, like, what? There's people that speak, English good enough to do business in America, and, called me just completely, uncultured. But I've been to Costa Rica, I've been to Mexico. They speak great English. It never occurred to me, but to be someone in your situation trying to find the solution. I just think it's a great story. I love it.
Thank you.
I love it. I love it.
One of the things that kind of gave me some hope was the fact that as part of my marketing agency, actually, one of my clients was a call center who was targeting American companies in this case, as opposed to Latin companies to do call center work. And they were specifically in Tijuana because there was a lot of people who would basically get deported from the US, who were brought by their parents, lived their entire life in the US, but didn't actually were born here. So they were kicked out. But they actually, many of them don't even speak Spanish. So they were working in Tijuana. And so I knew there was a lot of people who were able to speak Spanish, at least in the border, which is why I was starting. So I'm like, at the very least, there's all these call centers at Google and all the big companies are already hiring. So I'm like, probably those people are not getting paid that well. I probably can have them come to work with us and pay them very well.
Smart idea. Smart idea. Yeah. Pay them better than Google and build your business. What a great idea. That's so smart. Yeah. And you're right. I mean, the blue ocean idea, this is such a problem with so many entrepreneurs. They may want to start a business. They want to, be a business owner, but are they jumping into an ocean that's already full of sharks?
Yeah.
And it's bloody? Or are they out in the middle of a blue ocean that is just open for opportunity? That book, I've listened to it now a couple of times, and with the revised edition, it's so important as a business owner to really identify who your ideal client is, to the point that it is a blue ocean, and you can be that person for your ideal client. So I think this is fascinating.
Thank you. Let me start by saying, in regards to that for many years while working with my father, who still now works with our company, we were thinking back in the time I was doing a lot of e-commerce for my father's business, and we were always hoping to build an Amazon store or build an e-commerce store, sell something for years. But whatever we came up with was, in my opinion, never good enough. I was the best person to kill lots of ideas, no matter how we came up with them, but really never wanted to go ahead and put time and money into any of them. But this one, finally, we're like, this one might work, so I was happy that I found something that was not worth killing.
Great. Yeah, I love that. And that it speaks to your intro about, like in your family, you have a lot of entrepreneurs. That's really fun. Same, I come from I'm a third generation entrepreneur. So I love trying to fix problems and solve, great big challenges like you mentioned. Yeah. Let's talk about balance. You said you started this other company, then you got married in 2018. Obviously that shifts a lot of things in your life, right? You're starting a family and you have kiddos, and life gets fun. It gets busy. I know we have 7 children, and it's a busy time. But let me ask you, why is it important that when you're growing this business that you have great balance?
I think that if I am able to achieve the balance I'm still looking for, definitely I'll be able to just be happier, more focused, both when I'm here working and when I'm not working. And that basically translates into giving more of my actual attention and love, to my family, which is very important to me. And so I know that without this balance, it's really hard to actually be truly, let's say, myself and be who I want to be for my family, so that they can be happy and successful themselves as my kids grow. I have 2 girls, 3.5 and 1-year-old. So and it's not obviously just my children, but also spending time with my wife. I definitely seen the negatives of working way too much and not investing time with her in the last, let's say, year.
Yeah, they say that the number one factor in a good relationship is time together. And, this is actually the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing as a, balance man, is because I want to help families. I want to help relationships. And I started giving all this advice to couples about their relationship. And it all just came down to, if they don't make the time, if they're not together, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't. In fact, right. I saw more people having success in their marriage on the drive, a long drive, to see a therapist. It's in the car. They actually talk to each other, and there was this forced time together. So, and I'm being very blunt about this, but you're exactly right. It's that time invested, as you mentioned, and great good for you guys having two little girls. We have girls, and they're a whole lot of fun. But what you said there struck me is that when you're not present, you're not really being yourself.
Yeah.
Explain that a little bit more. What does that mean?
I guess a good example would be like, this business has been around, let's say now for 5 years, but in the last year, it's grown much bigger and it's been taking a lot of time from my life. I work way too many hours a day. And yes, I've chosen to definitely for now focus on whatever time it's needed to get stuff done, because I see the importance of also growing the business. But it's definitely made me realize that, let's say, when I am off and I'm not working, my head's still thinking about stuff. So sometimes I'm talking to my wife or to my kids, and I'm like, my wife has caught me several times, like, you're not really listening to me, or you're not really present. I see you dazing off to somewhere else, that even if I'm physically present, I'm not really present. And that's not good. And even if it's not that case where I am there and I am present, but I still don't feel completely, let's say, calm, and I'm still stressed about X, Y, or Z in the background, that's still a problem, right? So yeah, I can definitely see how that directly affects my time when I'm not working with my family or with my friends, where it doesn't feel like it's the right balance. And I was listening to you being interviewed in another podcast where you're saying, what is exactly balance? And I definitely feel it's part of what I believe you mentioned, where it's also how you feel about your life being balanced and not necessarily one exact definition.
Yeah, it's always different. And I found that it's usually a bunch of different things, a bunch of factors put together that say, yes, I'm spending and I'm making the time for really my highest priorities. Is that combination of priorities together. So yeah. I love that. I appreciate you mentioning that. Yeah. And being present, this is a problem in our society because of our cell phones, our watches, our gadgets, just everything blazing, not to mention when you come home, if you're still thinking about work stresses or problems or solutions, and you're a problem solver, right? And you want to turn that around into some, challenges into opportunities, like you mentioned, then your brain's still working on it unless you tell your brain to shut off. Right?
Yeah. And I'll confess something else, which I'm going to guess it's very common now with more and more people like me. I've been working from home actually from before COVID, and that's been a long time, but my work is at home, and that definitely, it's very hard to draw the line between working and not working, because I can just walk for like 5 seconds and get to my office from the kitchen, and it's very easy to come back to the computer and work on something else. And yeah, I've now had to have like literally serious conversations with my wife about how and exactly when to stop, because I'm a very task-oriented guy who wants to get stuff done. But yeah, I won't go into the details, but I can just tell you that, yeah, it got to a point that it got very bad, that I really realized I had to make a change, because as much as the business is important, my family is more.
Yeah, good for you. I love that. So as an entrepreneur, as you're dealing with the stress of work and building, Virtual Latinos, which is awesome. I love the idea. What have you done scaling wise that has actually been successful for you guys? Everybody has something different. Is it a referral business? Is it running a blog? What is it that has helped you guys to grow Virtual Latinos the way that you've done it?
I guess there's different ways to talk about our growth, but one of the biggest or most important initial things I did was focus my marketing skills and automation skills to be put into, let's call it, the equation of how we build the company. So I used all my marketing, let's say, techniques, including creating content and organic, basically ranking and getting organic traffic to us. I spent very, very little money on paid advertising to get traffic, which converted into leads, which converted into customers. But that was one part, which is definitely positive, that I'm a marketer to help this business in terms of the design. A lot of things that I already knew how to do for other customers, I did it for myself. But I think that most importantly in my specific case was the fact that I'm a really techie guy and I love automation. In fact, I did a little spin-off of my marketing agency that's called Bluminati. I had a spin-off called Bluminate with another landing page and website where I actually offered, and I was hired for services to implement automation and CRM systems to help clients not just build marketing, but build funnels and build a lot of processes on the back end to help them save time, whether it was their own time or their staff time. And so I used a lot of automated systems, the main one being Zapier, as well as other internal, what they call workflows, what are also just automations within a CRM system that helps us save literally hundreds of hours. In fact, I get an email from Zapier every week. It's like, this week you automated 100-something thousand tasks. So if I didn't have that in place, I would have had to hire a lot more people at the beginning than I actually did. And even today, we actually have a team of a little over 75 people. And I think that without the automation, we might have been 100 or a little over 100. Because there's a lot of work we do that's a little automated. But we obviously do a lot of human touch.
Yeah. No, this is a topic that is coming up every single day. Automation. Is it too much? Is it too little? Is it evil? Is it good? And I'm a big delegation guy. Anybody's listen to any one of my podcasts, we talk about delegation all the time. And quite honestly, I mean, you're a lead delegator. Like that's what you do. That's what you do to help other companies. But you're exactly right. I use Zapier. I have workflows in my CRM, in my sales cycle, in my automated email processes, my funnels online for where I sell my book, like countless. Even what we're doing right now, you notice this when we jumped on the pre-show. You're like, hey, you've got Otter running in the background. Well, yeah. That's so that my podcast team can take the best of this and get the notes for the show, like show note prep. But I do it for every Zoom meeting so that I can send those notes to my clients and keep my own notes. So I'm not sitting there doing that the whole time. Now, that said, what have you found? I mean, automation, we could spend a whole hour on this. I just want to dive in just a little bit, but what has been some of the struggles with trying to scale with automation?
I can tell you that up until probably 6 months ago, all the automation was mostly positive and we had so many things running. Finally, about 2 months ago, we finally had to actually hire like an automations expert because the problem was this: I was the expert. And every time the things broke, I had to fix them. I did teach my marketing director a lot of it. And so she started to fix a lot of the stuff when it was breaking down. But stuff breaks down all the time. And it got to the point, it's like, okay, my leadership team is like, Jaime, you are now obviously still the CEO. You can't be spending your time, fixing automations every time things break. So, but I'm like, it's just, there's so many complexities because there's not one formula or one book that will ever teach you anything because there's too many systems. Zapier connects now to over like 3,000 apps and each of them works differently. So there's no possible person who can, let's say, do anything the exact same way that I know how to do it. But as part of what I didn't speak, what you just mentioned about delegation, which is very much clearly what we're doing by offering virtual professionals, I was forced to let things go. And I finally let go of that task too. We hired a great person in Latin America that is actually way better than me at the geeky part of automation. And so now we're actually tracking stuff down and, creating it like professionally with a whole list of all the things that we're doing, input, output. But yeah, the problem is that keeping up with it. And then how much of that is automated and how much of it is a human where actual human people reply to the, people that we're working with, which is finding the balance. Going back to balance is key.
Yeah. I'm just laughing over here because I feel you, brother. But what was interesting is that you said the most important thing is that you're really techie and you love automation. Yet the thing that made the business is the thing that you finally had to step away from and say, somebody else can do this better. This, I believe is the measure of a great business leader, a great balanced business leader. You got on yourself about not being as balanced as you'd like, which we can all work on. And I appreciate you bringing that up. But I think one of the biggest issues that keep people from getting there is hanging on to those things they love doing. Yeah. I met with a millionaire doing some training with him years ago, and there was an automation website that he was building. And as we looked at all of the things that he did, it literally cost him $7 an hour to hire someone else to do what he was doing. And he's worth like $1,500 to $2,000 an hour. Wow. And we're like, holy cow. Once we put it in that perspective, it went from, but Travis, I really like doing this. I don't care. Yeah. Like you're losing $1,500 an hour at least, $14.93 an hour at least. doing this. And the next day, he got back to me. He's like, I just hired somebody.
That's good.
Because of this issue, right? It's like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
hanging on to it because I like it, because it's kind of your identity, right?
Yeah. And I'll tell you something, because, when I started trying to obviously market this business, because I didn't even know if it was going to work. And I'm like, I got to convince people that hiring people that are cheaper than their own time makes sense. And yet, even with my own time, only until now, we actually officially have a COO as part of our company that basically divided my role. I've been doing the operations and the CEO roles for all this time, until finally in January, we had somebody come in as a COO. And now my focus is to be just the CEO and do all the strategy part. But now, my COO has told me, is like, listen, remember that your time is very valuable. You shouldn't be answering this or answering those emails. You shouldn't be working at 11 o'clock p.m. or 1 in the morning answering clients or VAs. Just, wait, and tomorrow your executive assistant is going to take care of it, right? Well, but yeah, even telling yourself and reminding, in this case, myself, is hard.
Yeah, the admissions of an entrepreneur. I love that you have these conversations with yourself like I do. Like, it's okay. It's going to be all right. Like, yeah. I know we all have them, don't we? Like, we have self-talk, and we talk a lot about the negative self-talk out there, but positive self-talk, very helpful.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I talk about in this book, Achieving Balance, is that I have themed days. And I have specific, not just blocking out time, but I theme my days so that I know, on Monday, that's when I take care of client coaching related things. On Tuesday, that's when I do some marketing. On Thursdays or Wednesdays, I do podcasts. Not only do I wear my podcast shirt, but I also have that mindset of that can wait till this time period.
Yeah, that's a really good idea.
So having that positive self-talk of telling yourself it's okay. I love that. I love that you do that too, Jaime. Thank you.
Thanks. and going back to your question about, I guess scale, this is something we speak about it a lot with my father and the people that are close to me, that the reason that a lot of this has been successful is because I was kind of forced to let things go. And obviously people don't know who I am, who are listening, but I'm a guy who loves to do things my way, like many entrepreneurs. And it's very hard for me to let go of many things. And in general, I'm the guy who both likes to do new things, but likes to keep things the same. But as I saw the company growing, I just realized that I had to let other people do the things that I was doing, which is why we kept hiring more and more people internally. And, to this point, I'm like, wow, there's all these things that are now happening in my company that I don't even have a clue that's happening.
Yeah.
And the truth is I've accepted it. I don't need to know. And it's actually great. I don't want to know. As long as things are going and are happening correctly, for the most part, things are good. But it's been really hard to accept it. But now I'm actually happy. Now I'm actually saying, guys, I don't want to be in this meeting. Don't put me back into this. I'm happy not being as involved as I was.
Quit carbon copying me on every email. Yeah, right. Less is more. In that respect, once you have good systems. I think what I've seen with so many interviewing, literally hundreds of business owners, is if they don't have a good system, you can delegate it to someone or to, some process. But if your mind says, I'm not sure if that's going to get done, you're still going to worry about it.
Oh, yeah.
The psychological part ends up bringing you stress. And so what do? You micromanage, you jump back in. Even if you told your team, I can't do that. I'm not going to do that. And then if you show up, you break your own rule and you lose presence with your team and with your, your company. So I like that, you have systems and processes and you are able to delegate. I know you work with hundreds of business owners now and other entrepreneurs. So I know that you see these problems for them and you're actually have a solution that, that is, hey, here's some virtual help, which is part of the solution. It's not all of it. Training and coaching and other things might go along with it, but it is part of it. And I use good 5-6 virtual assistants besides my team here in-house. But what do you see as some of the biggest issues for other entrepreneurs in trying to have balance while growing their business?
Yeah, it's a good question. There's a lot of different people that, come to us these days. I guess let me start by saying that we've now gotten to a place that we are able to better predict who our ideal clients are going to be, as well as who our assistants are going to be the most ideal for. And one of the things we've definitely noticed is that when people are either not mentally ready to let things go and delegate, or they actually don't have any type of system or process that's either recorded in writing, or if it's in their head, they can put it in a video to train someone, then it's not going to be successful. Some people come to us and they're like, hey, I want to be able to grow my business, be more free with my time. So I want to hire a virtual assistant. But then even they come to us, they hire, and maybe within weeks or months, it doesn't work out because the entrepreneur wasn't really ready to do so. To answer specifically the question about, how can they provide balance? I think that now that I'm not only speaking to entrepreneurs, but I'm also part of two organizations of entrepreneurs, one called EO, Entrepreneurs Organization, and another one called Dynamite Circle, I can see that there's a whole range of entrepreneurs, from the ones that are starting out to the ones that are already made it and have multiple businesses, and they have no idea what to do with their time or money. So they're either playing golf or making up weird businesses just to kill some time. But I think generally speaking, all of us want to literally be able to have a balance of being productive and feeling like we're achieving something in our life. And in this case, if they're an entrepreneur, obviously having a business that's generating, money for them. But I think that that dream of actually being able to take a vacation and not worry about how things are doing in the business is kind of probably true for most people. And definitely, whether it's a virtual assistant or somebody in-house or in person, being able to mentally be okay with letting go and being committed to making a process so that people can copy it, which is the same main idea of the book, The E-Myth, right? All about putting everything in process so people can replace you.
Yes. I'm sitting here nodding my head because, you're exactly right. When it comes down to it, a lot of business owners don't like to take vacations because they don't have the system set up. They're afraid of what might happen if they leave because they're the ones micromanaging it, or they're afraid they might lose a big client, or a lot of it is fear driven, right?
Oh, yeah. I'm a great example too.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I finally was able to take a vacation, I think last year, that I left for like 2-3 days, and I did nothing and nothing happened bad. I was like, wow, this is amazing. And then I took another vacation 2 weeks ago for 5 days, and I literally deleted the Gmail app from my phone. I deleted Telegram, which is like Slack. Sure. I completely got out of being in touch with the company on purpose. I would only check email on my physical computer, not my phone. It was like, it was great. I felt so happy that it didn't depend on me.
See, that's the difference between a trip and a vacation.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Right? Anybody can go on a trip. Like you don't, but most people that I'm talking to that are struggling with this, a lot of times they will say, but it's okay, Travis. Again, I love what I do, so it's not work. And, it's okay because I'm flexible. And, I agree with flexible working. But the problem is if you don't take a vacation and you don't disconnect, like you physically had to disconnect, you took apps off your phone, you use the device that is normally connecting with work. You said, I'm not going to bring this until you actually disconnect. You can't be present. You can literally only focus on one important, vital thing at a time. Now we can do small things here and there, but the idea that the E-Myth brings up is if you have systems in place, the systems will run itself. Now, I consider myself the grandson of Michael Gerber. I have no physical relation. But one of his coaches, Dave Crenshaw, trained me on time management and systems and processes. And a lot of that's in my book, Achieving Balance. But we've changed it. We've modified. We've had it, focus more on balance versus just business flows, just business systems. Because what I found is if you just focus on productivity over time, you just become a productive workaholic.
Oh, I've been a very productive workaholic.
That's probably what's happened. Yeah. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs consider themselves a productive workaholic. When I administer the balance, achiever test, productive workaholic is usually the top one because they know they should be productive, but they don't know how to shut it off. They don't know how to turn it off mentally and physically. So I can't agree with you more. If you struggle with this and you can't take a vacation like this is one of the biggest symptoms that I see, because you can't separate yourself. And if you're not able to separate, you can't come back feeling relaxed, achieved. So when you come back from a vacation, now that you have all those things turned off, how do you feel coming back to work, Jaime?
Oh my God. Let me say that it's only happened now either 2 or 3 trips. And I know that sadly I had to just delete the apps because I've conditioned myself, and most of us have, to always checking our phone and see what email got here or what message, who wrote. And the moment that, even after I deleted the apps, I was just like, oh, I got my phone and I was trying to check something, like, oh no, I forgot the apps are not here anymore. But, after like a half a day, I realized, okay, great. That's it. I'm here. I am, in this case, I was in Cabo San Lucas in Mexico. So it was great. And when I came back, I totally actually felt refreshed. And while I was there, I was just focused on being there. I was with my wife, no kids. So it was really, really great. I actually came back and felt, okay, this was an actual vacation, not just a trip, like you said. So it really makes a difference.
Yeah. And the other reason why it was a vacation is that last thing you said, there were no kids.
Yeah, for sure. There's lots of stuff on social media. Like when parents go on vacation with kids, they just go somewhere else with kids that you still gotta take care of. That's right. It's the no kids is key.
It's crucial. I mean, my wife and I have a trip next week planned. It's our 21 year of meeting each other. We like to take a trip every time that shows up in June. But what's crazy is that our kids know that we need a vacation. And interestingly enough, I have a daughter who's 10 years old. She's learning Spanish from Duolingo. Okay. Talk about automation at its best, right? She's learning Spanish. And yesterday I came home and she said in Spanish, "You and mommy need to go on a vacation."
That's awesome.
It's hilarious. Anyway, I don't, you could say it in Spanish. I don't know. I speak Danish as my second language, but what was great is that your kids know too. They know that you need a break. They know when you're burnt out and when you're tired. And are you being your best self to them as a parent when you're burned out, when you're tired? No. You're not able to be that person that you want to be. And that's why you started the business, right? You wanted the flexibility. You wanted that freedom.
Yes.
I love this. I love talking to you because you get it.
Same.
And, you've seen the struggles and you're working on it. And I think most people who are listening, same, like they care about balance. That's why we're listening to the show. You're entrepreneurs. You're wanting to make a difference in the world, and interviewing people like you, Jaime, who are trying to work on it from a different side of the coin. I really appreciate talking to you. If there's entrepreneurs out there who want to engage with you and want to hire virtual Latinos, why would they want to do that with you, and where can they go to find that?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you again for also chatting with me. It's been a pleasure as well. And I feel very much the same chatting with you, that we're very much in sync about, this topic, which is great. If anybody wants to, learn why hiring somebody from Latin America is a good idea, I'd say the number one thing would be, in this case, time zones. People in Latin America are practically in the same time zone as the US and Canada. And that's a big important thing, because that means the people that you'd hire be working with you kind of the same in terms of, you wake up, they wake up, you go to bed, they go to bed. And that's kind of important, because people, let's say in the Philippines, get to work usually the graveyard shifts. So their time zone is, opposite. I'd say that's probably number one. Number two, it's definitely the fact that generally speaking, people in Latin America are still, more affordable than in the US by a lot. Clients are going to say between 30 to 70% compared to the US, but that of course depends on the country, the role, but that's obviously the main drive, to save money. And in this case, specifically with our company, is the fact that I was able to build a very great filter, which is our recruitment process, to find the very best people in Latin America for most of the roles that we help with, where we end up being able to find people that are very high quality in terms of work ethics. They pay a lot of attention to detail, which is something that I built into the process. And in this case, of course, they speak English. They're bilingual in either English and Spanish or English and Portuguese, from Brazil. So we've been basically able to get the top less than 1% of the candidates that come to apply to us. And that's obviously the good thing, because that means saving you money and time in terms of finding the right people. We initially only accept about 5% of people into our community, and we end up hiring a little bit less than 1% of them.
Wow, that's fantastic. So if they want to reach out to you, I know we'll have this in the show notes. It's virtuallatinos.com, correct?
virtuallatinos.com is the website. You can learn all about it over there. If you want to send us an email, info@virtuallatinos.com. And definitely you can reach out to, my team and they can put you in touch with me for sure too.
Love it. Thank you for being on the show. Really, this has been such a fun conversation getting to know you. And I hope you guys enjoyed this as much as I did. Reach out to Jaime if you need this type of help. You're growing and, it's a struggle. It is a struggle to find really good help these days. And, one way might be to have a virtual assistant. And if you're new to it, trust me, I'm going to, I have more virtual assistants than I have in person. And I did that on purpose.
And, Travis, you and me, we're both obviously here in the US. And I'm going to just say that it's kind of, I'd say sad, but a lot of our clients are just like struggling to find people in the US to fill the roles they have. And that doesn't mean sometimes because they're not offering the money is being offered there, but it's other reasons. So when people come and hire, let's say outside the US, and then they realize how these people that are so blessed to have that opportunity to work with a US company, and they're totally going to put all the effort into working with you, sometimes much harder than people here in the US. And I know it's kind of weird to say that, but I mean, that's the feedback we get from a lot of the clients. Like, wow, we're paying less. These people are like working super dedicated to us and really, doing their best and committed to staying with them for, long-term, which is what we focus on. We don't do any project-based work. It's all long-term to make these people part of your team.
Love it. Yeah. And I think that's when I looked at your website and was impressed by that. There's a lot of virtual stuff that's like, hey, we'll do project work. And I think that's one thing as an entrepreneur is you don't want to have to keep rehiring and retraining and
That's right.
So that's a big deal. And I appreciate you mentioning that. And thank you for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you as well.
So willing. Again, if you guys enjoyed this, like, share, subscribe, do all the things that we ask you to do to keep this message hopping. This is how we are helping to create a better world for entrepreneurs and business owners who want to have balanced growth and creating this movement. So please support the show. Thank you again. And for listening, and Jaime for being here. And remember, till next time, live life on purpose.